Hey, what's up everyone? So I've had a lot of requests to make a tutorial on Metaobjects ever since they came out at the winter editions 2023, that's January. But I was kind of hesitating because I knew that they would be updated very soon and expanded, and that's what just happened recently at the summer editions, which is July. We now have a few more features that make them a lot more useful for the average Shopify store, so it's time to make this video. I'm going to start with a recap on Metafields. I'm going to compare Metafields to Metaobjects, so you have to understand what Metafields are. If you don't know what Metafields are, then I recommend watching my previous video, which was templates versus Metafields, an introduction for beginners, because Metaobjects is going to be like the next level of that. It builds upon Metafields. So I'll start with comparing both of them. I'll explain what Metaobjects are, and then I'll show you how to create new Metaobjects and where you can actually use them. So the different ways to display them in your theme. I'll be showing you some more or less realistic examples as well. So let's get started. Let's actually start with a quick comparison with Metafields, because I know that as soon as you hear Metaobjects, you immediately think, how is that different from Metafields? So here I have a product on my store where I want to display the ingredients in this dropdown, and I'm using a Metafield for this. This is like the perfect use case for Metafields because each of your products has a different list of ingredients, right? The way that we solve this with Metafields is that we create a new custom field for our product called ingredients, right? And here we can paste the ingredients in, and we can do this for each product. And then you pull that Metafield in by using the insert dynamic source button here, selecting ingredients, and it shows up here, right? And so each of our products is showing a different ingredient list. Here, let's check out this protein. We have completely different ingredients. It's still just pulling in that Metafield, but that Metafield, I've filled it out differently on the protein product page, right? Hope that makes sense. Hope that jogs your memory on Metafields a little bit. Now here's the main takeaway. It's that all of these Metafields are simply additional information about this product. When you define a Metafield, you choose what you want it to be on. So mostly you use products, right? But you can add Metafields to any one of these object types on your store. So you can add Metafields to collections, customers, pages, blogs. These are all objects, right? Think about that word, objects. An object is just a thing, right? They're just things on your store, things that exist. And Metafields are like additional ways to describe that thing, right? You have the title, description, and you have your Metafields. They all describe this particular product. And the product is an object. Now in Shopify, we've always just had these objects that are there by default. We have products, collections, blogs, pages, but we were never able to create our own custom objects, were we? Like new types of data. So Metaobjects actually allow you to define new types of data on your store, and you can find them under this content tab here in the sidebar. And the example that I've set up for you, the first example, is services. So let's say that your store creates handmade leather goods, and because they're handmade, you might want to offer some additional services, right? You might run workshops and classes, you do repairs, custom orders and things like that. But you don't want these to be products. You don't want people adding them to cart or anything like that. They're not products, they're services. So that's what Metafields let you do. They let you define a new type of thing, a new type of object on your store, right? Something that makes sense for your business. And then you can actually add information about that object. So as you can see on this page, I have the name of my service, the description, and just an image that I can choose. Very simple Metaobject, but you can actually build this out to be whatever you want. So unlike the product page where you have default fields and then you have your Metafields, these are all Metafields. These are all fields that I've defined, and it just depends what you want to show, what you want to say about this Metaobject. And similarly to Metafields, once you've filled this out, you can then output this Metaobject on your store to display it somewhere using your standard sections and blocks. So first let me show you how to define a new Metaobject, and then I'll show you how we're going to display it on the store in various different ways. Defining a meta object is pretty easy and it works very similarly to Metafields. So you can either come here to content meta objects and then you can add a definition, or you can go to settings and go to custom data, the same place where you go for Metafields, but scroll down a bit, you'll see meta objects and you can add a definition. And here you would give your meta object a name. So I already showed you services. But another common example that I see is ambassadors, like influencers that work with your store. You might want to create a name, a bio, an image of them, right? And you might want to feature them on products that they wear. But for now, let me just show you how I created these services. I'm just going to call it services 2. The next step is very simple. You just add fields. You would usually want a name. And this is exactly like setting up Metafields. They're the same data types as Metafields because you're going to be outputting these data types in the same sections and blocks, the same way as Metafields. So an image, you choose file, don't allow videos or whatever, and call it, service image or anything that makes sense for your business. Okay, and you would keep going until you've fully described your product as much as you desire. I'm going to discard this for now because I already have that set up. So we have our services here. As you can see, I've created a name, a description, and an image. It's very simple. And let's say now that I want to create an individual page for each of them. In fact, the rest of this video is going to be about the different ways that we can use meta objects in our theme. I think there are mainly 3 different ways. The first way is an individual page for each service, for example, or an individual page dedicated to each ambassador, influencer, or retail store that stocks your product, right? And this is called Metaobject pages or Metaobject templates, which you will actually notice on your store. You probably have this new button that says create Metaobject template. That's unique pages for each Metaobject. The second way is to reference Metaobjects in Metafields and output them on another objects page. So what I mean by that is basically attaching a meta object, for example, an ambassador or a reseller to a product. So we're going to add a section at the bottom of a product page where we show where you can find that product in a physical store around the world. And then the third way is to output a list of meta objects. So we're going to output a list of services or a list of resellers, retailers that stock your product. And it's going to use repeating blocks. So let's start with this. I think the easiest way to demonstrate this is with services. Like I said, I just want a page talking about the service and maybe with a contact form at the bottom. So to create a page for each one of these, the old way to do it in Shopify would be to go to pages, add a page, call this page repairs or something, and add 4 new pages for each of those services that you want to show, right? Well, the new way is to create a meta object template, and all of these pages will be created automatically. The meta object template, it's this new button here that you have in the theme customizer. Create a meta object template. We want a template for services. This is going to ask you what you want the SEO information to be. This is the same as like this part on products or on pages or anywhere else across your store, the page title, description, and then you can choose the URL. So here, you choose which field from the fields that you defined you want to be this SEO data, and you can also change the URL if you want. So the standard URL of these meta object pages is going to be /pages/ the meta object type and then the service in this case. I'm not going to change anything here. I'll just create template, and now we're ready to go. So just to demonstrate, I'm going to add a simple section. Don't judge me on the design, okay? But we can output the fields of our meta object here. Okay, so I'm going to grab the image for our services and I'll put the service description here as well. And as you can see, just the same as with product pages, we're outputting information about that object. And if we save, we can see that we didn't need to create a different page for each service. They've already been created. Okay, so we can switch between each one of these. All these pages already exist on our store. And I'm just going to finish up this template. I want to remove the button. I want to add a contact form so people get in touch if they are interested in this service. And that's our service template done. Now I realized that I should have actually taught this in a different order, because I'm going to show you how to output them in a list now, because I guess the next thing you want to do once you created these individual service pages is you want to list them somewhere, like here are all our services, right? That's the next logical thing to do. So to do that, I'm actually going to create an old school page, right? I'm going to call this page services. Okay. And now if we refresh and we go to this page, go to pages, I'll create a template also called services. This is nothing new, right? And I'll refresh here so that I can apply that template to this page. Okay. And so now here I am looking at my services page using the services template in the theme customizer. And now I want to list out my services. Now I'm going to show you this rather quickly as an overview, and then I'll show you in depth and explain in my next example about retailers. So the first thing I want to do here is add a section, and I just want a multi-row, so I want each of these to be a service, right? So I'm going to go into the first block here, and you'll notice now that there's this connect dynamic source. Usually it's next to fields, but it's actually on the block now. And I can add a metafield here. What does that mean? Well, pages can also have metafields, can't they? So let's add a metafield to our page. I'm going to go to settings, custom data, go to pages, and I'm going to define a new metafield called services. Select the type, and the type is going to be Metaobject. And see, it's letting us select which Metaobject we want to use, which Metaobject type. I want to use services, and I don't want one entry. I don't want just one service. I want a list. So let's save. And now you'll see how we can actually use this. I'm editing the services page again, like a regular page, but we have metafields on it. And in this metafield, because it's a Metaobject reference metafield, I can select from my list of Metaobjects. So I'm actually going to select all of them because I want to list out all of my services. I'm going to save that. And now we have our page with some metafields filled out. Go back here. I'll just save that so I can refresh, because now we should have access to the metafield that I added for the services page, which lists out our services, right? So let's access this services metafield, which is referencing all our services. Suddenly, here we go. So it's pre-populated some of them. You see, like it's added these fields into here, but we can change these. So I don't want a caption. I actually want the name to be here inside the row heading. Right, so that's looking good. The description, that's correct. And the image, it's automatically populated them correctly as well. And so now we have this like repeating icon. This is called repeating blocks. We can save, and that's done. We're listing out all of our services. Obviously, like I said, don't judge me on the design. You can do this much nicer. But the point is that we went into a section that has blocks, right? And we go into the first block, and now we can connect the first block to a metafield which references Metaobjects. And that will automatically output as many as you have defined in that metafield. Now I want to go over referencing Metaobjects from metafields or through metafields in a bit more detail, because that was a bit rushed. And I'll show you my original idea, which was showing you with retailers. So again, this idea is that you have stockists or resellers, and here's the products that I have as examples. And let's imagine that these 3 stores that I've listed so far are stores that resell your products. For each of these stores, I have a name, a logo, which I haven't bothered filling out actually, a city, an address, and an image. And it's just a rough example, but this will be enough. We want to associate one of these stores with a particular object, with a particular product. So let's say that the leather belt is stocked in a gentleman's store, and we want to output that here as a section. Let's say that we want a section. Again, I'll use image with text. Actually, I'll use a caption. We want it to be like this. Find this product at, and then it's going to be like, store name. Find this product at store name, and we want the image to be like an image of the store, and then it'll be like shop here, or just not really. We'll just output the address here. Yeah, 123 Fix Street. So something like that. So what I want to do is, again, I want to output the Metaobject Metafields here, but I can't access them yet. I can't access them because I can't access like all the Metaobjects in my store really. I can with code, but they're not attached to this product yet. So we need to attach the Metaobject that I want to this product, and we do that through a Metafield. So let's go and edit this product, leather belt, and what we want is to create a Metafield here, which is going to be like, which is going to be called retailer. And in that retailer Metafield, we can select one of our retailers. So does that make sense? So let's go to settings, custom data, products, and I'll define a new meta object called retailer, and it's going to reference a meta object from retailers. Just one entry for now. Save that. And now on our product page, I'm going to go ahead and select Gentleman's Store as the retailer of this particular product. Once we save that, and now through that meta field, I will be able to access the meta object values. So when I go here, we have this retailer meta field, which is referencing the meta object. So you can see we can go into it, and now we can select the name of the meta object. You see that? So we've created a meta field which references a meta object, but that lets us access that meta object from this product page. Okay. Just add the image here, and here we go. And by the way, you can mix things, and you can also, you know what, I'll output the title of the product here. This is not a meta field, this is the standard, whatever. You can mix things like that. Find the leather belt at, like this. Now let's do the same for the leather bag. Let's say that the leather bag can be found at modern classic. Let's save that. And now here on leather bag, I just refreshed, and we already see that this section has been populated with the correct meta fields, which are pulling from that meta object. Now, let me quickly show you the wrong way to do this. Like if we didn't have meta objects, imagine what we would have to do. On the product, instead of selecting the retailer here, which already has all the information inside it, like the name, the image, and the address, instead of that, we would have to create individual fields for every single thing that we want to display. So I would create a meta field that's like retailer name, then I would create a meta field that's like a retailer address, a meta field for retailer image, and I'd fill all of those out, and then we would be able to output them on this product page. But then for other products, let's say another product is also sold by Modern Classic, and for that product as well, I would need to fill out each of these meta fields again. And then what if, for example, I do that for 100 products, and then the address changes? And that means I have to go through 100 products, and I have to change the address in the meta fields for every single one of them. I have to do this 100 times, or I have to use some kind of automation tool to do that. Instead, we have this information in the one meta object. So all I need to do is change the address here and save, and then that's going to be updated across all 100 products that reference this meta object. I update it in one place. So I hope that makes sense. So now we have the leather bag that is stocked at Modern Classic, but I think a more realistic situation would be that it's stocked at multiple stores, right? So I was just showing you an example, but realistically, we wouldn't want this to be a single entry meta field where we can only choose one store. We want to choose multiple stores, right? And to do that, we actually needed a meta field with multiple references, with references to multiple entries of meta objects. Oh my god, I'm not sure how many times in this video I've said Metafields and Metaobjects. So now we call it retailers. Okay, I'm creating a new meta field called retailers, and the type is going to be Metaobject again, but this time a list of entries. I'll select retailers, and that's going to let us select a whole list, as I showed you before with services. Here I'm going to grab less basics and modern classic. So this bag is stocked at both of these stores. And let's save that. And now in the customizer, rather than this one image with text, again, I'm going to use that multi-row. Go into the first block, connect a dynamic source, and it's going to be retailers, the list. And we're immediately listing out all of the stores where this product is stocked. If you have a lot more than this, if you don't want to have an image for each one, for example, well, we could use collapsible content. Same concept, go into the first block, connect the dynamic source, retailers, and there we go. Each retailer is listed, and we've got the address in each one, automatically populated, but you can change these. It's just, it's intelligently choosing what meta field goes into each field here, but we can control that ourselves as well. You could switch this out for maybe the logo meta field, or you could, remove the button here. Okay, so I think that's all for meta objects today. The basic method is to define your meta object, then to create entries of meta objects until you have, a list of them. Then you create a meta field on your product so that you can reference that meta object or reference a list of meta objects. And then you can output those meta objects on your page either one time, right, for which you only need a single meta object reference, or you can output a list using repeating blocks by selecting the first block in that section. So that's all for the video, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. And finally, if you watched to the end of this video, then you should definitely be subscribed to my newsletter. I realized that there's so many tips that I give out privately in emails or on the Discord group and things like that. And I actually should be publishing all of those. So I'm going to start a series of extremely short emails, just small tips, small code snippets. You can just put your Shopify learning on autopilot and just pick up new little skills every week or so when I send out this newsletter. So definitely subscribe to that if you watch to the end of this video. I think you'll find it interesting as well. That's all for today, guys. Also, please like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.